I want to continue this series of talks on loving kindness. Tomorrow is the last talk on that, and today I want to continue talking on the same topic. Yesterday I gave a series of things to remember to overcome anger, which of course is a very common thing, very difficult thing, and that is why when we recommend some people to practice Metta, some people even get upset. Because some people have problems with their parents, they cannot share their loving, friendly thoughts with their parents. Some people have problems with their neighbors, with their teachers, with friends, their bosses in the workplaces, their co-workers, and so forth. Therefore, they harbor hatred, anger. And when we try to suggest them to practice loving friendliness, it is very difficult for them. Because they always, when they try to practice loving friendliness, anger comes to them. They get upset. They remember all sort of wrong things they have done to them. Say sometimes parents. Children don't remember what parents have done when the babies are very tiny little. All they remember maybe what the parents have done when they were growing up, reprimanding them, asking them, don't do this. Don't go there. Don't speak like that. Don't sit like that. Don't associate with so and so. Don't bring such and such home. They impose a curfew on them. All these they remember, and therefore they think parents have curbed their freedom. Parents have abused them, but they don't realize how much they have done when they were very tiny little babies. When they were born, we all were very much like just a piece of meat. In fact, we could not do anything by ourselves when we were born. Without them, we would be completely dead. And that part we never remember. And of course, sometimes some people have problems with children. And when we talk about parents, those who don't like children get upset. There are so many reasons for people to get upset, angry, when we talk about living friendliness. And they even don't want to hear that. That is very unfortunate, and someone who does not want to hear the talk on loving friendliness have very difficult life, very difficult mental states, and they have a lot of things to work out in order to make their life happy and peaceful, because living friendliness is a wonderful thing that we all have to cultivate. When we cultivate that, our resentment definitely fades away. So, when anger arises, there are several other things to do. One is engaged in some wholesome activity, gardening, or taking care of an animal, or feed an animal, or help somebody who is in need of help, find hospice program, find some destitute people. When you do work like that, wholesome work with those people, you naturally begin to develop loving friendliness towards those people. Because when you work with them, you can see their suffering. You appreciate your compassion. You see how much compassion you have within yourself when you are engaged in some such wholesome activities. That would be healing for yourself, and that would be healing for others. And thereby you cultivate this thought in your mind through your activities, through your actions. There are so many things in this world to do to help others, which naturally arouse our own inner wonderful, noble quality of this living friendliness. Walk on the street, go to a shopping mall, you can see so many very elderly people. They hardly can carry their grocery bag. They cannot cross even the road. So many, everywhere, every society, we find beings, human beings like that who needs help. If you do some work like that, deliberately, your anger slowly fades away and you begin to appreciate life, appreciate your life, appreciate their life. Actually, people who have tremendous hate in themselves cannot develop loving friendliness towards themselves or towards others. So in order to overcome their own hatred, their anger, they must do something very concrete and physical. Next thing I would suggest that one should do to overcome anger is not to associate with people who are very angry. It's very damaging to your own state of mind. If you can help them through your practice of loving friendliness, you help them. Otherwise, don't try to associate with them. Try to avoid them as far as possible, just like avoiding as I said, the stick taken from the funeral pyre, which has both ends burnt and middle has dirt. You cannot use it for anything. Just like that. Now, these are whom Buddha called fools, who are always very, very angry. Nobody can associate with them. Buddha called them fools because they harm themselves. Every time, always they harm themselves. Not only drinks and drugs and things like that, but inner hatred, always full of hatred, always. See?
I thought they were coming to get us.
I thought it was a airplane. Okay. Is it okay? What happened?
I don't know.
the sound from the speaker was in the microphone and back. Louder and louder.
Feedback. I see. Anyway.
Change the position of the microphone.
Huh?
Sometimes if you change the position of the microphone.
Is that how our minds and bodies work when we get angry?
Yes, actually this is very good example. When you are full of hatred, full of anger, it feedback and eat you up. It is unbearable. Unbearable to the person who is full of hatred and to the people around. Just like this humming here. Very difficult to associate with such people. And Buddha said they are unwise or foolish because they cause harm to themselves and cause harm to others, and they cause harm to both. When we say this, sometimes people ask, how about your compassion? When somebody is so full of hatred, you are so full of loving kindness, friendliness, you should associate with him and help him. You know how much you can help. You burn out and you are not enlightened. Your capacity is not unlimited. You are human, you have your own limitations, your own weaknesses, your own limitations. When you hit the edge of your limitation, you yourself will get very nervous, very tensed, uptight, rigid, and you may be one like the other person, very upset. And there will be more problems, more fights. So, Buddha said, don't associate with them. And you remember in Mangala Sutta, not to associate with the fool is a blessing. Why? When you associate with them, in the Buddha's interpretation of fool, fool is one who abuses his intelligence. So human beings are considered to be intelligent beings. And if one does not know, does not use one's intelligence to curb one's hatred, anger, things that hurt oneself, hurt others, what is the use of his intelligence? He may have a great book knowledge, great experience, and he cannot take care of his own negative emotion. Therefore, his intelligence he abuses. He does not use it properly. No matter how long you associate, how much you try to help him, he would not learn, he would not change. And therefore Buddha said, don't associate with him. By not associating with him, perhaps he may miss you. When you don't associate with him, then he begins to think, well, it is because of this anger of mine. I lost my friends. I lost my associates. I lost my job. Therefore, I must do something about it. So the person will learn. So not associating with such people is not something permanent, something temporary, until that person comes to senses and realizes and changes himself. Then you can start associating with them. So avoid them for your own benefit, for the benefit of him and for the benefit of both. Next thing we should do also, when you are angry, always get angry. instead of blaming others, you ask yourself, why do I get angry? Normally people, it is very easy for us to find faults in others, to get angry. We may say, well, I didn't start it. So-and-so started it. And I was calm and peaceful. So-and-so is always troublemaker. And therefore, I get upset. Or, you may get upset, get angry, even if there is nobody else around you gets angry. For any tiny little thing you get upset. Try to find out why you get angry. Maybe your health may not be good. Maybe you may have your high blood pressure, your cholesterol, your sugar, your some neurological problem. Check out. Perhaps you may have some personal problems. Or, if everything else is okay, and still you get angry, ask yourself, am I selfish? I get angry because everybody, everything wants to be done in such and such a way. If it doesn't happen that way, I get angry. Also, when we are selfish, that is how we think. Everything must be in our own, in my own way. Either my way or byway or highway. There's no middle path, no compromise. And there are people like that. They are very selfish. They never want to listen to others, never want to bargain, compromise, discuss, come to a decision. Why? Because they are very, very selfish, very, very egotistic, very self-centered, ego boosters. They don't want to live in harmony. So they get angry. They don't understand the meaning of loving friendship, loving friendliness. There always has to be some middle ground in discussion. I may, if I think I am always right, you are always wrong, that means problem is not yours, problem is mine. So if I get angry because of that, I always must look at myself and ask myself, am I selfish? Am I egocentric? How can other person always wrong? Other person can always be wrong. It is not possible. So, try to find out your own selfishness. And if you see you are selfish, egotistic, then slowly, if you cultivate loving friendliness, you can slowly be able to reduce your selfishness and accommodate the other person's weaknesses. Other person may have a lot of weaknesses. Perhaps you may have very special skills, abilities, gifted certain skills. Other person may not have all these things. And therefore, by getting upset, angry, is not going to help anybody. So we have to look at our own state of mind. Next thing is also very important. When you get angry, these are all recommended in Buddhist texts. I collected them from here and there. You don't find them in one place. But these are very important things. All the Buddha's advices. Samma Vayama, exercise, good exercise. Do some exercise, physical exercise. And mental exercise. Actually, when we do physical exercise, it relaxes our body, relaxes our mind, and muscles are relaxed, circulation becomes very good, that very tensed, uptight situation fades away. And if you do it every day as a habit, if you get angry, if you do it every day, that also helps us to overcome our anger. The mental exercise, is called, we call it right effort. It sounds very technical, very abstract. When you just read the book, read the Eightfold Path, it sounds very abstract. But they are very practical daily instructions. We must think every day. If I get angry every day, I must think as soon as I wake up in the morning. I must think, today I must make every possible effort not to get angry on any situation. Situation may arise today, things can arise today, there may be conversations, there may be people, there may be situations, there may be events, something can happen today. But today I am not going to get angry. You don't know, so many unexpected things can come up which can make you angry. So if we made that determination in the morning for not to get angry that particular day, perhaps first day it may not work. First hour it may not work. Second, third hour may not work. But if you keep reminding yourself, well, I made that commitment this morning. You know, early morning commitment is very good because what you do in the early morning, you remember. Because mind is very fresh. First day you may not remember. Second, third, fourth day, if you make the same commitment every morning, then as day grows, increases, you recall your commitment that you made that morning not to get angry. And when situation arises, anger may start as a habit. Then you remember your commitment because you made the determination. And then anger will not arise. But as a habit, in spite of your sincere wish, commitment as a habit, because for the past 20, 30, 40 years, you allowed it to happen and you did not take care of it. Now when you are 50, you start it. Or you are 40 or 30, you started it. And therefore it is not very easy. And therefore it can arise in spite of your wish. Anger can arise. At that moment, you remind yourself, well, I should not get angry. This morning I made a commitment. So this is how you overcome the anger that is already arisen. That is another mental exercise, which we call right effort. And when you establish these two states in your mind, then you begin to see, it's wonderful. It is wonderful. I am a different person now. I am changing. I can handle my anger, not because of anything else, but because of my own commitment. You begin to congratulate yourself. And then you develop this thought again and again and again and again. That is what is called the you arouse this thought again and again and again during the daytime, that you are a different person, that you are not getting upset, not getting angry, not doing anything to hurt others, not say anything insulting things to hurt others out of anger. And therefore, this is what I want to cultivate. That is the last step of your right exercise. Vayama. Actually, although we translate that into English as effort, Vayama in Sanskrit, Vyayama. Vyayama means exercise. Even in schools in Sri Lanka, in schools there is a period, PT, physical exercise period. In Sinhalese it is called Vyayama. I think in India also, the schools, they call it Vyayama. Vyayama is Sanskrit word. Vayama is Pali word, which means exercise. We make mental exercise in order to overcome our anger, hatred, or our resentment and so forth as it arises. After all, we all must remember the whole purpose of doing this is to make ourselves calm, peaceful, and make our mind healthy, body healthy, our surrounding healthy, for associates to feel comfortable to associate with us, and for us to feel comfortable to associate with others, and to carry on our activities harmoniously, live together with others harmoniously. And therefore, we have to make the groundwork, prepare ourselves to practice loving friendliness. Loving friendliness practice is not very easy, very difficult thing. So this is another thing we have to do. Mental and physical exercise helps our muscles to relax, blood circulation to go very smoothly, and mental exercise is to take care of our mental states, our nerves, nervous system, our way of thinking, our attitude, our behavior, our way of thinking, all this. Next thing we have to do is to find somebody, a good friend. When you are getting angry very often, you must realize, I think I must consult somebody. You tell your problems to a friend and discuss with that friend. That friend also a friend of noble qualities, good qualities. Meaning, when you go and complain to somebody about somebody's problem, that because of that somebody's problem you get angry again and again and again, the other other friend of yours would not encourage you to blame that person if he's a good friend. He would say something to calm yourself. Well, perhaps that person also may have his own problems. So we have to try to practice compassion towards him, loving kindness towards him, because there has to be some other things for that person to say something, do something like that. So the other person should be able to give you good advice in order to calm yourself. So the second, third, fourth time, if you come across similar problems with regard to, in relation to the other person, you will remember the advice your friend gave you. So you learn to overcome your disappointment, anger, and so forth with other people. So, and also a good friend with warm heart will advise you, please, if you get angry like this always, you are going to hurt yourself. You are going to hurt your mind, your own peace. And therefore, don't get angry. And he would give you advices, how to deal with the situation depending on whatever complaint you have. So the good friend is always should be at hand to consult. Go to that person and tell that person your problems. As Buddha said in a spiritual training, good friend is a wonderful person. Good friend is one that we have to have at hand all the time. I think we have mentioned many times in the past. Once Venerable Ananda went to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, 50% of spiritual life depends on a good friend. Buddha said, no, don't say Ananda. Spiritual life depends on a good friend. And good friend has a compassionate heart, loving heart, is wise, well-read, understanding, and he is listening, and he is talking. He is listening to any kind of talk, any kind of speech you make, he will listen. He's a good listener. You know, many people, we cannot talk with them. They dominate the conversation. And they are the speakers. You are listeners. You go to tell your problems, and the other one, instead of listening to your problem, that person would start giving you a long sermon. That is not the attitude of a good friend. Good friend, when you go to a good friend should understand that you went to him or her to pour out your problems. So the good friend should have enough, sufficient patience to listen to you until you finish everything you have to say. Then you feel relief in your heart because you have some to dump all your problems. He is a dumpster, good friend. He will absorb everything. And he will release it by himself later on, but at that moment, out of compassion, he would listen to your problem. And also, a good friend will not mislead you. Good friend always give you right direction, a proper advice, with compassion and loving thoughts in his mind. So, Buddha said, associate with the good friend. And then, next thing one should do is, all these are very, very important, is listen to a Dhamma talk. These days you can listen to Dhamma talk, go to internet, open internet. You can get many beautiful Dhamma articles. Listen to tapes. There are hundreds of good Dhamma tapes available. Take a book, good Dhamma book, and read. Even it may not be pertaining to anger, but it will explain Dhamma. So when you listen to Dhamma, or read Dhamma book, Dhamma articles, or Dhamma tapes and so forth, that moment, anything Dhamma, anything devotional, it doesn't necessarily have to be one particular thing, anything devotional, devotional songs, perhaps very beautiful, soothing, comforting music. There are many beautiful music. You know, in not listening to music is one of the precepts in my 8 precepts. But that doesn't mean not listening to anything, any sound, any songs. That simply means not listening to those vulgar music. Even in the Buddha, even Buddha has recommended chanting. Although in some place in Anguttara Nikaya there is a place where there are 5 disadvantages of giving sermons in poems, in poetry. That has a different effect. But chanting, what is to be chanted? There are certain things. Sutta Geya. There are 9 limbs of Buddha's teaching. Sutta, Geya, Vyakarana, Gatha, Itiuttaka, Nidana, Abhuda, Vedalla, Jataka and so forth. These are called 9 limbs of Buddha's teaching. Gatha and Geya. Geya means that which is to be sung. That which is to be sung. And Gatha is one of them. If you listen to a sound of Dhamma, anything which soothes you, comforts you, your anger will go away. If you listen to there is a very famous saying in Sinhalese literature explaining this. It says, Dahamata sari kota teraki kaviyata sita pahada sita nisaki sihi kota kanda pinivela dosunoyeki nivanata sapani sangha sata namaki. A group of monks were traveling in a forest, and they heard the sound of a song sung by a woman. Normally, when you hear a song sung by a woman, they heard the voice of a woman. Only then they stopped and began to listen to the sound, because it is so very sweet, coming through the forest, through the trees and leaves and so forth, in the very still dark forest. Very soothing voice coming. They listen. And then, at first they could not hear they could not understand the words. When you sing songs, you cannot understand words first. But when you listen very carefully for a while, then you begin to understand the words. So these monks listened to the words, and then began to ponder over the meaning of each word. And these songs were sung, they were composed on Dhamma. And therefore they contemplate on the meaning of these words, and then by listening, it is said that they attain stages of enlightenment. This is of course one of the things that Buddha has mentioned also. Listening to Dhamma is one of the 2 factors of attaining the first stage of sainthood. One is called Paratobhosappacchya, the other is mindful reflection, Yoniso Manasikara. So they listen with mindful reflection and attain the stage of enlightenment, first stage. So, therefore sometimes songs, when you are angry, when you are upset, listen to a very meaningful, calm, soothing chanting or music and so forth. Then, next thing you should do, investigate the Dhamma. Take a very profound, deep piece of Dhamma, a sutra, a book, explaining certain very deep things, and reflect. Get yourself engaged to get out of that, to divert your mind from angry state to another state. Give the mind to reflect on something other than anger and so forth. Then find out reasons to develop loving kindness towards the person you have problems with. Reasons. Suppose you find a person whose words are rotten. I mean, the person speaks very bad words, bad language. Does not know how to speak. No polite word. Very cursing, very hurting, insulting words. Person may say. But the action, that person does something very nice. The person may come and suppose you are doing something, you cannot do it properly, the person will come and say nicely, you fool, you idiot, you don't know how to do this and so forth. But having said that, he will do the job for you. So, that is good reason for you to develop loving friendliness towards that person. Such person is compared to a dirty rag you found on the road. Suppose a monk is traveling and he will see a dirty rag on the road. It is so dirty, he cannot even pick it up by his hands. He would hold it by one foot and kick with the other foot to dust it out, clean it up. And then pick with two fingers and shake it, with sort of disappointment, contempt and so forth. And then he takes home and wash it neatly and then start using it to make a robe or even a doormat or something. But he puts that piece of clothes to work. Similarly, when we want to cultivate loving friendship, even that person, we have to find out, well, in spite of all that person's filthy language, that person does something wonderful. For that, I must respect him, admire him, and I must share my loving friendship with that person, loving friendliness with that person. And let him change his way of talking. When I associate with him, when I show my loving friendship, he will change. So that there you arouse loving friendship with friendliness within yourself for that person. Secondly, you find another person also words are bad, but the deeds are good. But from time to time, his heart's open to loving kindness, friendship, and appreciative joy and so forth. In spite of his bad words, good deeds, his heart will open to you. And then you practice loving kindness towards the person in spite of all his weaknesses. That person is compared to a pond covered with moss. When you want to dive or get into that water, you by hands, you remove the moss and dive in it and bathe or swim or whatever. Similarly, mentally you learn to ignore the person's superficial weaknesses and try to find out the fact that his heart opens to compassion and loving friendship from time to time. He will develop pure heart from time to time. That is a reason for you to develop your loving friendliness towards that person. The third person may have very bad words and bad deeds, and his both bad thoughts, deeds were bad, and his mouth is bad. Always he speaks badly. But still he has, from time to time, he opens his heart for noble things, friendly things, compassionate things, pure heart from time to time, occasionally. That person is like a puddle on the road. Suppose you are, it's a very beautiful simile to remember. Suppose you are walking on a road where there is no water, no well, you are thirsty, tired, hungry, and you are desperate, you need some water. You are almost dehydrated. At that time you find little water on a cow's footprint. You know, it is not too much water, but cow's footprint also is not too deep. But there is water. If you try to take that water by hand, you make it muddy because water is not very deep. So what you do, you bend down, kneel down, and you, with your mouth, you slowly bring your mouth close to that little water and sip it from there without disturbing the mud. So you can quench your thirst. In spite of it is dirty or everything around, but the water remains little clear. Not too much, but that's enough to quench your thirst, since you are so desperate for water. Similarly, find even in that person some reason for you to cultivate loving friendship towards him. Although that person's mouth is very bad, deeds are very bad, since he also occasionally has a little opening to purity, compassion, loving kindness and so forth, use that. Just like you use this water, although everything around is dirty, you use that little water to sip to get your thirst out. You meet another person, fourth person. That person's words are bad, behavior is bad, and heart also does not open at all for anything noble. So, that person you find like a patient, sick man, walking on a road again, where there is no hospital, no village, no human beings around. This person is afflicted and suffering by severe sickness, and he really needs attention, medicine to take care of. Otherwise he would die. And you see him and you will feel very sorry for him. Your heart melts. You think, how can I help this man? He needs water, he needs medicine, he needs clothes, he needs somebody to help him. How can I help him? So you would volunteer to help that person in spite of all these difficulties around. There's no water, no other human being, but you come up to help him. Similarly, Buddha said when somebody is completely negative in thoughts, in words, in deeds, totally negative, and still we have to find a reason to develop thought of friendliness, compassion, loving kindness. Fifth person, his thoughts are sweet and wonderful, his words are beautiful, friendly, his deeds are friendly, beautiful, pure, everything is ideal. And it is very easy for us to cultivate loving kindness towards that person. So, Buddha said, put all these 5 people together and try to cultivate loving kindness equally to all of them without any discrimination. So it is not very easy. We have to make a great sacrifice to practice loving friendliness. Not very easy. Sacrifice of our comfort, sacrifice of our thoughts, sacrifice of our feelings, our attitude, our behavior, our habits, so many things we have to sacrifice in order to cultivate loving friendliness. Not very easy. So, I have 2 little stories to conclude the talk. One story, I think probably you have heard, it's a beautiful story about Shantideva. Shantideva was practicing loving friendliness, Metta. And he was practicing. He wanted to see Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha is the Buddha who represents Metta, loving friendship, loving kindness. And he wanted to see him. Of course, Maitreya Buddha is coming in future. How can we see him now? But he wanted to see Maitreya Buddha's image. Somehow, that what he called his vision, apparition. Doesn't matter how far into the future he might come, but he wanted to see at that time in his life. So, he thought in order to see him, all he has to do is to practice loving kindness. He was practicing. One day, when he was walking, he saw a dog by a roadside. And this dog was wounded and weak, very dirty, ugly looking. The maggots were jumping out of the wound and so smelly. So he thought, this is the chance for me to practice. Now I want to help this dog. I want to remove these worms, the big, worms jumping out of his wounds. So he thought, if I take these worms with a stick, I will hurt worms, because the stick is very, very, very stiff. And even if I take it with the stick, where to put him? If I put him on the ground, he will dry, or other bird or some predator will come and eat him up. So I cannot put him on the ground. I cannot take it with my fingers My fingers are too tough. The worms are so delicate. And I might hurt the worms as well as the wound on the door. Then he thought, I have an idea. He thought these worms need meat. So he cut a piece of wood from his own leg and put one side, and to take these worms out of the wound. He knelt down. He thought putting his tongue out and taking the worms one by one and put on the piece of wood, meat, so that the worms will not be hurt. And there is a place for worm to stay, and dog will be cured. With this thought, he bent down and stretched his tongue out to take the worms out. That instant, he saw the Buddha's, Maitreya Buddha's picture, statue. And then the dog disappeared, worms disappeared, and even his wound was healed. And then he said, "This is it. I completed my practice of loving kindness." You see? I think it is a very beautiful story. So see to what extent somebody cultivated to make it real. The other story is what do you call Sanat Kumara story. He went to see the Buddha with his son, with his baby boy. He was a prince, but he was babysitting that day. So he took his baby with him and went to see the Buddha. And he asked the Buddha, "Sir, do you say sometimes some harsh words to hurt people?" Then Buddha said, "My dear prince, the question cannot be answered one-sidedly. It has to be answered in a more broad way. If the speech is right, unpleasant, hurt somebody, I would not say that. If the speech is wrong, hurt somebody, I would not say that. If the speech is wrong, pleasing to people, I don't say that. If the speech is not pleasing but rough and hurting, and still even if it is right, I wait for that. If the speech is right, sweet, moment is right, I will say that." Okay. Then he asked, "Is it true, Venerable Sir, that you said that Devadatta, when he wanted to see you, you said he cannot see me. But Devadatta was going to die, and he was so desperate, he wanted to come and see Buddha and apologize to the Buddha before he died. So he was coming. And when Buddha was informed that Devadatta was coming to see the Buddha, Buddha said, he cannot see me. So it sounds very cruel. But what Buddha meant was, Buddha knew that he cannot see him because before he came to see him, he would die on the road. Buddha knew that. That is why he said, no, he cannot see me. So this prince asked the Buddha, is it not cruel? Buddha said, no. Is it not, sir, sometimes you said to monks very harsh words, sort of saying foolish man or mogha purusha and so forth? Then Buddha said, okay, now you have a little baby sitting on your lap. Now this little child gets up and crawls and put a piece of wood into his mouth. What would you do? He said, I'll take it out. If I cannot take it out easily, I ask somebody else to hold his head, and I hold his hands. With my left hands, I hold his both hands tight and make my index finger crooked and put into his mouth and pull the